Awesome. Welcome to the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth with yours truly and my incredible colleague, best friend, and success mentor, Miss Jessica Perez. Guys, we're pumped about what we have going on here. And Jess and I had an incredible time with John Maxwell a few weeks ago. So we're going to launch into it. I'm going to share my screen here and just dive into what we've learned and what we're doing moving forward as entrepreneurs, as leaders in network marketing, leaders as business owners, and just personal growth is key to anything in life, right? So this is the 15 Laws of Growth. We're going to be diving into John Maxwell's #1 bestseller. It is a book called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. You know, really just live them and reach your potential. So Jess and I had a blast. We're going to be hosting this 15-part series. This is entering week 1 of a 15-part series. So the next 14 weeks after this, we'll dive into the other 14 laws. My name's Jessica Crate. I'm originally from Canada. I'm out here in the windy state, the sunshine state of Florida. And I'm really excited to be on this webinar with you guys, to be able to hang out on a Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern in the sunshine, wearing a sundress and not a suit anymore. And to really be a lifestyle entrepreneur and to be on this journey of growth. So Miss Jessica Perez, as you can see, neither of us has really grown physically much in the last 5 years, but spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, we have grown a ton. And so we're excited to lock arms together as we continue to grow. The next 5-10 years are going to be incredible. So Jess, why don't you give the crew a little bit more about you?
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. I appreciate it. So, yes, absolutely right. You know, we've had a friendship over 5.5, almost 6 years now. And, you know, when you have an opportunity to be able to not only connect, but share passions with each other and purpose, that's really what we're doing. So my background is very, very traditional. I come from education, went into the government, have worked in nonprofit, the fitness industry, and really always searching for something. Little did I know that network marketing would come into my life. Little did I know that leadership and development was something that I would continue to be really excited about. And Jen and I were privileged to be able to be a part of a small group of about 200 total folks that were in a room about 2 weeks ago with the Dr. John C. Maxwell that wrote this book and has written over 27 million, sold over 27 million books. So we just were really floored by what we learned in that one day of an event, not only from him, but from other folks in our industry, sharing how these laws of growth really apply to work, life, and careers. You know, anything to be able to grow, you got to start from your own personal development versus outward looking inward. So, yeah, that's kind of my background. So I've become an entrepreneur, as Jessica has, and I see some other folks on here who also are in that same vein, really looking to grow ourselves as we build our businesses. And hopefully we can bring some value to you today and for the next 14 weeks. So Jess, turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Well, today, guys, we're going to launch into the law of intentionality. And growth doesn't just happen. And we're going to go into 8 misconceptions about growth and really just what it takes to be intentional about that. But before we do, I wanted to read the excerpt. We did a fun Facebook Live video yesterday, Jess and I did on a road trip. But, you know, one thing that we talk about most is potential, right? Potential is one of the most wonderful words in any language. It looks forward with optimism. It is filled with hope, and it promises success. It implies fulfillment, and it hints at greatness. Potential is a word based on possibilities. Think about your potential as a human being, and you should get excited. At least I hope you do, because both Jessica and I are pumped about the potential of our growth and just that journey that we're on. So what a positive thought, right? I believe in your potential. Jess and I both believe in your potential as much as we believe in ours personally. And so we want to ask you this: do you have potential? Absolutely. You have so much potential to unlock within you. And we don't want anyone dying with the music still inside of them. So we want to unlock that so that you can unleash that power that you have within you to really rock forward towards your purpose and passions in life and truly live out your full potential. So Jess, life is in session. Are you ready?
No, I'm definitely ready. We talk about, are you present, and being present in every moment. So we're gonna hit these 8 what they call growth gaps. That's something that he talks about. Growth doesn't just happen. It really is an intention of moving forward from one step to the next, right? So it's like a building block. Growth is building blocks. So the first assumption the first gap that we're going to talk about is called the assumption gap. And I'm going to take that one because for me, that has been something that I just assumed would happen. I really did. I just assumed that I would automatically grow. It's kind of like when you're in Parks and Rec. I had been in that field for almost 11 years. I just assumed that I was the next in line to be the director of that department. When you hit a ceiling, stuff happens, right? Stuff happens. So the misconceptions are really that just by living that we're automatically going to grow. And that's just not the case. It really isn't. No one improves. These are just direct quotes from the book. No one really improves by accident. We definitely need to take complete ownership of that growth process and create a growth plan for each of us. So it's taking away and recognizing that just because when we were kids, we grew, some of us faster than others, right? But instead of that thought process, recognizing that we must be intentional, literally put it in place, create a plan of moving from point A to point B of where you want to get, right? It's more of a journey versus a destination. And that's something that the assumption gap really talks about. My take really had been about that. I use that in the example for Parks and Recreation. When the promotion didn't happen, the sales come out from underneath you and you go, geez, what did I do wrong? And honestly, it was nothing. It wasn't anything about me as much as it was about the situations and things surrounding you, right? So what could I do in order to combat that is really to be in a place and understanding that it was about the journey, the journey of me getting to that point. Was that where I want to be? No, that's why I'm here today versus there. So really that's what I took away from the assumption gap, understanding that it really is more about looking at a growth path versus a goal path, right? Not looking at a goal, not looking at director as the epitome of what I wanted to be, right? So that's really the assumption gap. That's kind of leads right into the next one. If you want to hop over to the next slide, Jess. It leads into the second gap, and the second gap talks about the knowledge gap. Like, I just don't know how to grow. You just don't know how. Sometimes people are, most people don't plan their growth. They just kind of don't think about it. They just think it's going to happen, similar to the assumption gap, right? But the key is really to plan it, to design a path, decide where you want to grow, and put down and lay down the steps necessary to get to those places. My takeaway from this chapter was really about, or this section anyway in the chapter was really about, there have been so many times when I simply just kind of went through the motions, of just living, and you just kind of like, you wake up and you don't even realize, how many of you have gone to work and then you get there and you're like, oh my God, I'm at work. Because your mind was completely not even there, right? You were just going through the motions. It's like your car was on automatic pilot to get somewhere, right? So you know what I started doing, because I felt myself doing that in a job that I felt I was like confined in? All I could do was I created a different path to get to work. So that's what I did. I literally was like, okay, today I'm going to go right instead of left. And it was pretty cool. I designed a different path, and my growth, it kind of separated myself from where I was the day before. So, during some of those tough times, I've had two humongous losses of jobs where the rug was pulled out from under me. I wasn't sure where I needed to go, and I just kind of could sit there all day long going, is this all that is meant to be, right? And I think the knowledge gap, really, he talks a lot about understanding that, it's not always going to be the path that you expect to happen. But if you create the journey that you want to be, like where do you want to end up, and begin structuring, and you go along a path that kind of makes sense, right? So within that, one of the things he talks about in the knowledge growth, I'm going to read something because it was so cool. He talked a lot about, it's much better to plan your growth intentionally. You decide where you need or want to grow. You choose what you will learn, and you follow through with discipline, going at the pace you set. As an employee for many, many, many years of my life, I was going at the pace of someone else. They were telling me the direction to go. That wasn't exactly allowing me to grow. It was just keeping me in a spot that they wanted me to be. This is the shift. This is the shift that not only John Maxwell talked about, but the industry leaders that we sat down with in that day that I know Jess also, felt compelled to share. Because when you can hear 200 people speaking the same language, you're not the only one feeling that way, right? So if we can create a movement of people understanding that, that's really why this hopefully will bring value to each of you. I'm going to pass it back over to Jess. She's going to take over 3, 4, and 5, and then we'll pop back over to me. But Jess, go ahead. Why don't you take on the next growth gap? I think you're on timing. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jess. So the timing gap, I love this. I love timing. And as a former athlete, I love to be first. And I realized that the timing gap was something that held me back a lot and I used as a crutch. I was, trying to get ready to be an entrepreneur, and you just have to do it. It's not the right time to begin. And that's one of the most common misconceptions, is that it's not the right time to begin. Like having kids or getting into a relationship or, launching a new business, there's never going to be a great time. You just have to go and do it. And the misconception is that most people don't act on things when they should. They wait and they wait and they wait. And the longer you prolong things, it's called the law of diminishing intent. The longer you wait, the greater the odds you won't ever do it, because it'll get to a point where there's no sense of urgency and you've waited so long, you've either missed the boat or you've let that burning desire dwindle away and the flame is no longer there. So, in both our lives, myself and Jess have talked about this. There have been moments that have occurred when we felt like this was quicksand. We couldn't make the leap. And you have to push through and step out of your comfort zone to bridge that gap. One of the quotes in that says, talking about a life lived for tomorrow will always be a day away from being realized. So if you're always putting things off till tomorrow, you're never going to get anything done today. You have to live in the moment. And at the beginning of this presentation, we talked about life is now. Are you ready? Are you present? Are you ready to begin? And you have to just run towards it. You have to be okay to fail forward. And so the timing gap really just is something that I realized, there's never going to be a perfect time. You just have to jump in and fail along the way. Richard Branson, he's one of my favorite entrepreneurs. He talks about, entrepreneurs jump out of the plane and build the wings on the way down. They don't wait for the perfect time to jump out of an airplane. They just do it and they figure it out along the way. So the timing gap, you've got to get over that hurdle to be successful and not continue to get ready, because you'll never be ready. We're going through this growth journey, and both Jess and I looked at each other and laughed yesterday, just realizing how much growth we've done together over the last 5 years and how much more we still have to do. And it's exciting. It's a journey, and it's a journey of personal growth and development each and every day. So the timing gap, let's launch over that hurdle into the mistake gap. Most people are afraid. I know I was, in making mistakes. As a perfectionist, a type A+ personality. I wanted to make sure that I had everything in a row, that I didn't make mistakes, that it was all cut and tidy and nice and neat. And I thought mistakes were bad, that if I made a mistake and screwed up in business, that it was a failure. And so what you have to realize is that mistakes lead to amazing growth. And they're those necessary portals to moving forward, to learning, to discovering new ways to do things. And to, whenever you fail or make a mistake, use that as a platform to launch you forward to that next level of success. Because if you never make mistakes, you're just riding this coastline and you're never going to grow. So simply, there's another way to do things, and there's always going to be alternative ways to grow. So Warren Bennis says that quote, and it's just the author of Failing Forward, and talking about that book from Dr. Maxwell about failing forward. You have to be able to grow, to make mistakes and grow through those things. I know both Jess and I, launching into being entrepreneurs in the network marketing realm, starting my own business and failing multiple times, day in and day out, and then launching into the entrepreneurial realm, there is just so much growth to do. And, don't reinvent the wheel. Follow people ahead of you, step into their footsteps, and learn along the way. The next one we're going to jump into is the perfection gap. And like I said, they kind of go hand in hand, and each one of these parlays into the next one. But the perfection gap. the misconception is I have to find the best way before I start. And, I was training a new team member last night, and, they're just like, hey, I really need to get things together and figure out the best way and write out a business plan and get ready to get ready to get ready. And I need to make sure that I have the best way figured out before I start. But the reality is, guys, that you have to allow it to be revealed, but only after you started. Until you start, you'll never have the incentive to grow. If you're waiting to get started, you'll never get started. You'll always be waiting and using the timing or the mistake gap to, take you away from what that is. So the perfection gap, similar to the mistake gap, it's really the desire to find the best way before you start. But like driving on an unfamiliar road, you have to just get on that road and map out the course along the journey. So be patient with the journey. Just allow it to unfold by always staying in a constant state of growth. And it goes back to being present. Stay present in the moment. Stop worrying about the future or letting the past get in the way of today. Live for today and just get started and keep growing. Before this, I mean, we're still growing on these webinars, and there's different ways to grow. There's different ways to do webinars, different ways to prepare. So be patient with the journey, get excited, and just embrace the journey. Don't put perfectionism on that. Allow yourself to just be open to growth and change, because without change, there's no growth. And without growth, you're not living, you're existing. And so we want to live truly, not exist. So I'm going to pass it back over to J-Lo, Miss Jessica Perez, on the one that I think you're the best at. So take it over, sister.
Thanks, Jess. So, the inspiration gap, people think of that word as being what's going to motivate someone, right? Is inspiration. And the gap is that sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. There are times, like I said, when the two jobs in my past that kind of got the rug pulled out from under me, I honestly, it was a gut check for me. I'm thinking I was it. I was there. I had arrived. And then someone else tells you haven't, right? And so there are moments when I just felt like I just want to sit here and do literally nothing, like immobilized, paralyzed in that space. And what this chapter or this section talks about, and why I really wanted to delve into it, is because it's not about motivation. That keeps you going, sure, but you know what? That's really a trap. He talks about forgetting it. He talks about just doing it. That motivation is a byproduct of love and happiness. Just like love and happiness, it's a byproduct of something. It's not action. Motivation is not action. And, I'm sitting across from Jess here, she's there and I'm here, and she's one of the most motivated individuals, self-motivated people that I know, that no matter what, she's going to get up every morning and move forward, right? Not everybody has that self-motivation within them. So the key is that, when fatigue and stress and self-doubt and all those things are entertained, that's when your inspiration dies. That's when your why goes away. And as network marketers, like we talked about, as entrepreneurs that we all are, if your inspiration and your why is dead, holy cow, you're dead in the water. Forget trying to build a business. You don't even want to be a person. So it really is, the inspiration gap can totally keep you down and not allow for growth to happen. So my takeaway from this chapter was really about having to have self-talk. You got to talk through it yourself. You got to push through that lack of motivation. You got to take the moments. He talks about, which I loved it, he says, act. You're more likely to act yourself into feeling than feel yourself into action. I'm going to say that one more time, because that was really powerful. You're more likely to act yourself into feeling than feel yourself into action. That was powerful. It's by a Harvard psychologist, Jerome Bruner. And that's something that John Maxwell says. He says, I'm not the one who knows everything. He quotes so many people in his books because he is a learner. He is a self-described learning, and he's never going to stop learning. At 69 years old, the man is still learning. He's completely taken that term learn as lifelong learning, right? So it's really about that. He says, so act. Whatever it is you should do, do it. Just do it. And that's not taken from Nike. That's just taken from an actual 3 words, just do it. And that's how you kind of overcome the inspiration gap. So I'm going to pass it back over to Jay High for the next one.
Awesome. So I love this comparison gap, because how many people do you know that launch into the comparison gap? Others are better than me, or they're more successful than me, or they've been in it longer than me, or they look better, they act better, they're taller, they're faster, they're stronger. The comparison gap is a self-diminishing trap. It really is. And the misconception is that some compare themselves to others and see them as, better, stronger, faster, smarter. But in reality, surrounding yourself with these people only makes you a better, stronger, faster, smarter person too. I relate this to being an athlete. I trained with people that were a little bit faster than me, and then I started running with the guys and they were faster than me, and it would encourage me to be better. It would encourage you to continue to grow, because if you're not surrounding yourself with people that'll take you higher, you're going to be drugged down. So don't compare yourself to other people, because the third bullet point there, I love this quote: comparison is the killer of joy. You have to continually understand and be present with yourself and fall in love with your journey and not compare it to anyone else. So our take on this, or my take, is it's easy to compare, especially with social media, with the selfie generation, like the look at me, I have consciously chosen to dig deep. You have to choose to dig deep and look inward, not outward, for success measures. Don't compare yourself to what others are doing. Get consistent with your purpose and potential. Figure out your why and move forward like a freight train. Don't let anyone come on and knock you off your path. Because when you know where you're going in life, only the right people will jump on your path and the wrong people will come off of it. And you'll only compare yourself to the personal growth journey that you're moving forward towards, rather than getting caught up in the distractions around you. So get laser focused, get excited, and be excited that you're invited on this journey. You get to be a part of being an entrepreneur, things that most people won't do, doing the thing that most people won't do so you can have what most people won't. So I love the comparison gap. And when you get over that trap, you'll be able to move forward on your own journey in life to just truly become solely the best possible version of yourself. So the last one, I'm going to kick it back to you, Jess. The expectation gap. It's all yours.
Awesome. Thanks. So I love this line. I thought it would be easier than this. How many people, raise your hand for sure, thought life, forget work, but life would just be easier, right? You just expect that to happen, right? It's an expectation. That misconception is that, growth is just going to happen quickly. It's just, that there's all these overnight sensations, in the company that we're in and in the business model that we're in, there's folks who are all the way at the top and we're like, they had it easy. No one knew about the company. How could that be easy? You want to talk about a pioneer, right? So people do create their own luck, it's, and they have a really cool, something that I thought, and it was a huge takeaway. I know Jess saw it too. We both highlighted this, is there's like a formula is like, you take it to the side and you say, all right, if you can have preparation, which is growth, you add attitude, you add opportunity, okay, you add some action to it, which is like doing something. That's what's luck. It's a combination of things. Luck just doesn't happen because you happen to walk into the store and buy the lottery ticket, right? A lot of things happen for that lottery ticket to actually be won, right? It wasn't luck. There was things that occurred, so you can't change. And this is another really amazing, I think Jim Rohn said this, he did. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. That's the dialogue of journey versus destination, right? It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. It's about the direction. It's about the path that you're taking. And that's what this expectation gap is. It's understanding that having a real clear idea. If you're working in teams, which we do within our company, we work in teams. There's a lot of team members on this webinar today. There'll be folks that we don't even know, which is awesome. But if you're working in teams, it's identifying and recognizing that, let's get on the same page with expectations to know where are we heading? Are we in the same direction, not destination, but the same direction? Because when you're there, that's how you fulfill the potential. That's where it comes from within. It's when you make and you become intentional. You become intentional in your thought process with your expectations, with the things that Jessica talked about, not comparing with the thing, it's kind of like they all feed, each of these growth gaps feed into each other. And that's really the beauty of what this book has to unveil for us in the next 14 chapters. This is just number 1. So Jess, I'm going to pass it back over to you, and we're going to kind of talk about that transition, because I think that that's key for us to move forward. We know what our growth gaps are. We know where we're at. But how do we take that next step and how do we apply it, right? That's the next step.
Absolutely.
So pass it back to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jess. So the 8 conceptions about growth that may be holding you back. So you may have identified with one or more of these growth gaps. And so jot down the ones that are holding you back the most. And then start to take notes as we enter into the next slide and asking those questions, because really the sooner you make the transition to becoming intentional, the better you'll be and the much further you will grow. So applying the law of intentionality to your life. So to transition, become intentional in growth as it compounds and accelerates over time if you stay intentional. What Darren Hardy is one of my success mentors. I plug into the Darren Daily every day. He wrote The Compound Effect. And it goes hand in hand with John Maxwell's book, because in order to grow, you have to be intentional every single day. It's not I feel like it one day and then a week later, I don't really feel like it anymore. I'm going to stop for a month. I'm just going to put a hold on my growth. No, it's a daily consistent effort, and it compounds and accelerates over time. So a couple big questions to ask of yourself: where do you want to go in life? I know that's a big question. That's a bold question, right? Where do you want to go in life? What direction do you want to go? What's the farthest you can imagine going? And this really gets down to laser focusing in on your why, your passion, and your purpose. Because when you know where you're going to go, you can start to unlock that potential that lies so deep within you. And then we go into the do it now. Guys, we heard in the timing gap, later is a dream killer. So the urgency, like Jessica talked about, not just the Nike slogan, but just do it. Eliminate words like someday, maybe, sort of, kind of, tomorrow, eventually, hopefully, wishing. No, don't wish, to hope, to want. Do it now, today. Make those action steps towards that and start running laser focused towards your goal. And then we're going to start facing our fears. Jess, if you want to jump in to feed your faith and starve your fear, I think this is really key in just weeding the fat that holds you down in life and in business and in just growth. You have to face that fear factor. And when you run towards it, you start to uncover it's, face everything and run, or face everything and rise. So I'm going to flip it to you, Jess.
That is exactly the quote that I was looking for. I'm glad you found it, Jess. The bottom line, she talked about three amazing things, asking, doing, and facing. You can just simplify everything to ask the hard questions of yourself, do what needs to be done, and face what you know is those fears that she mentions. It's forgetting everything and running away from things, or just facing it and rising to the occasion. I mean, that is the simple way to attack fear, is just simply to look it in the face and say, not scared of you anymore. Let's move forward. Mm-hmm. I had a fear of not being in a job per se, right? So what I've done is I fueled myself and begun building, blocks around me in order to be able to be the entrepreneur that I really want to be, to fill my soul. It will fill my pockets, sure, in the long run, but you have to step outside of that fear first, and then you can begin building. Because if you're doing anything in fear, you're simply not you. It's not the real you. It's a false impression of who you are, because most people really do want to be in a strong, faithful place. So I love that. And then the last one is just changing from accidental to intentional growth. It's really making that choice. So it's changing the mindset. It's saying we have a choice. We're deciding. We talk about deciding a lot in our business, seizing those growth opportunities and shaping our lives. And in doing so, we shape ourselves. If we shape what our life looks like, imagine internally who we become. The stronger we become, the more easy it is to face the fears. It becomes more intentional to do the things versus sit back and allow them to happen to me versus me go attack them. And then it allows you to be in a space of being intentional and asking yourself those really tough questions that we don't ask ourselves. So I'll pass it back over to you, Jess, and see if there's anything you'd like to add in that last changing from accidental to intentional.
Yeah, just thinking about, who are the people what is the mindset of an accidental grower, right? They're like planning to start tomorrow, or they're depending on good luck, or they're falling into bad habits. They stop learning after graduating, or they're just relying on talent. Talent combined with success and preparation equals opportunity, and then you can start growing. So intentional growth insists on starting today, right now. It doesn't wait. People fight for good habits. You have to continue to think like a learner. You have to grow. You have to think outside the box. Never stop growing. And we have to persevere along the way. And Eleanor Roosevelt has an amazing quote, and I think you touched on this, Jess. One's philosophy is not best expressed in words. It is expressed in the choices one makes. In the long run, we shape our lives and we shape ourselves. So growth doesn't just happen, not for me, not for you, not for no one. You have to go after it with full on intentionality, with 100% gusto and intuition. You have to just run towards your growth and commit to it every single day, because without growth, there's no opportunity. So, start now, guys. I would suggest, number one, don't get distracted. Rework your calendar. Have a day planner. Start to intentionally map out your day and plan ahead of time so that you can weave in those growth factors. Find a success mentor. Weave in different growth pieces. Find what's holding you back, or maybe the self-limiting beliefs that you're telling yourself, those gap traps that are holding you back, and start to flip that mindset and start to transition into somebody who's intentionally living the life full of potential. So Jess, I'll pass it back to you. We can start wrapping this up. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Jess. This has been awesome. This is something that is kind of a labor of love for me. I think for Jess too, is, when something touches you and you're a teacher at heart, which I've been a teacher my whole life. I feel like I still am. I'm a teacher, but I'm also a learner. That both Jess and I are getting and gaining as much from these webinars as we'll deliver them for the next 14 weeks. Our growth will hopefully, you'll see us transition into a deeper, better, stronger webinar as we go. But at the end of the day, it really is about delving in deeper. That's everything that John Maxwell talks about, in the invaluable laws of growth. They are invaluable. One leads to another. So be intentional who you are. Be a part of whatever it is that you want. Just be fully present in it. I think that's my big takeaway about being intentional, is being fully present in those moments where growth can occur.
Absolutely.
So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Love it. I'm excited, guys. We want to hear next week. We'd love you to follow us on social media, email us with questions, comments, feedback. We'd love to hear what you're intentionally doing to grow. We're going to stop the recording here in a couple minutes and open it up for some Q&A. And we'd love to hear from you how you're intentionally deciding to grow. What are the gap traps that are holding you back?
You guys are awesome.
We help you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so next week, guys, we're going to be focusing on the law of awareness. And we've got a really cool video that we're going to show. But the law of awareness, you must know yourself to grow yourself. And how do you fall in love with knowing yourself? So tune in with us every Friday for the next 15 weeks. These are all going to be recorded. They'll be posted on our Facebook pages, and we'll make sure that you guys have all the information. So let me stop the recording and we'll open it up for some Q&A.